I recently had someone say an interesting thought from, I think it's from our Torah study group in the morning on Shabbat. I'm not sure exactly who said it, so I'm sorry. But I found it compelling because as I read through this week's Torah portion, which is Parashat Toldot, which focuses on the generations of Isaac and is also devoid of any action from Isaac. And so I saw at the parashot before and even going forward, I found myself as very compelled with this thought that somebody presented. The thought was that we could replace Isaac in this chain of tradition with Rebekah. Oh my God, yes, of course. I could not stop thinking about it because instead of saying or reading or reciting as we have in the Amidah, the blessing of our standing, instead of reciting evoking our ancestors as the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, we could just say the God of Abraham, the God of Rebekah, and the God of Jacob. Because Rebekah plays an actively significant role in shaping the story of her next generation of the Israelites, our generation, the Jews. As progressive Jews, of course, we have included the matriarchs in our prayers. We say the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and then we add we add Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah. But it's really in the second line. So maybe we should get Rebekah up there. Abraham, Rebekah, and Jacob all have remarkable historical accomplishments and journeys. They all responded to the call of Lech Lecha. We read a little bit a while ago of the call. Abraham, for instance, left his homeland to embark on this journey filled with just a promise from God that he will become a great nation, he will be respected among other nations, and that his descendants will have a land of their own. A call that we have all been responding to in our ways, in our different ways of moving from one place to another, of searching for God and meaning in our lives. Secondly, Rebekah. Rebekah, in addition to her kindness, agrees to travel and leave her family behind to meet Isaac. They fall in love and have 2 twins. Rebekah senses that her youngest son, Jacob, might be a better leader than Esau, which is a different story to say. And therefore, she tricks Isaac, her husband, into giving their son Jacob the blessing that was intended for Esau, helping Jacob receive it instead of Esau. So, as we might already know, these 2 sons have been filled with rivalry all the way from their mother's womb. Their lives are filled with rage, deceit, revenge, and finally we see some reconciliation in the Torah portions to come. They are 2 opposite brothers. Esau is a hunter and a man who loves being in the field, while Jacob is described as a man of Ta'am, which might, translate as mildness or calm, or he's delightful, perhaps. So now we get to Jacob, the 3 of them. It's Abraham, Rebekah, and Jacob. Jacob takes matters in his own hands, buying the birthright from his brother Esau with just a bowl of lentil soup. With the help of Rebekah, he tricks his father Isaac, giving him the blessing instead of Esau. Jacob, for God's sake, wrestles with an angel and wins, and he receives the blessing of a new name, Israel, which we have all inherited. And while all this is happening, Isaac remains silent. Isaac responds only when called, Isaac gives only when he's asked. Everything that occurs to Isaac seems to occur around him, and things seem to happen to him. It may appear as though he lacks agency in his own life. A wife is brought for him, which ultimately leads to a beautiful love story, thank God. So, what is it about Isaac that we evoke when we ask God for blessing for our own? What is his contribution to our story besides being a son and a father, which, by the way, are great things to be? But we can ask the same question of ourselves: what makes us an important part of the chain of tradition, of passing tradition and laws and love and everything down from one generation to another. What is our contribution in this big chain of movement? Is it what we perceive from the past, or is it what we invent and create for the future? In all of our Torah, no narrative equals really to the terror of the binding of and near slaughter of Isaac by his own father, which we read 2 weeks ago. Isaac disappears from the scene of Torah until his mother's death last week, when we read that his mother dies, he appears again. Biblical historians remind us that this text was likely included to signal Judaism's abhorrence to child sacrifice, that this is not something that we tolerate. And what better way to make this statement than God saying to Abraham, stop, do not sacrifice your son. But still, this episode really leaves us disturbed and wondering, what did Isaac feel facing death in his face? The rabbis suggest that his heart stopped in his chest. These narratives have left us and biblical commentators wondering what Isaac's life was after this incident. However, from last week's Torah portion, Haye Sarah, the Torah hints a little bit that Isaac lived a life of intention, really. We read that Isaac went out on walks in the field. Others say he went out to meditate. He used to go out and meditate in the evening. And the Talmud, our teachers in the Talmud take this further and say Isaac instituted our evening prayers, really, because when he goes out on these walks and meditation, that cannot be anything else other than prayer. This is where, of course, he looks up and he sees a camel approaching, and one of them has Rebekah, and the next thing we know they're married and they love each other. But this is also the first time in our Torah portion that we read of love, really, in the Torah. We see Abraham with Isaac, with Sarah. We see later on Jacob. They admire their wives, but only Isaac is described as loving his wife. So in this Torah portion, one thing that Isaac does towards the end of his life, really, is Isaac digs wells. He digs new wells and also repairs the wells which had been dug in the days of his father Abraham and which had been stomped up by the Philistines after his father died. The ones he repaired, he gave the same names as his father had given, and the new ones that he created, that he dug up, he gave new names. There is a healing and spiritual aspect to repairing things, really. With these wells, Isaac was giving life to those who came before him, to the people around him, and to the future generations, and perhaps giving life and meaning back into his own life. Isaac's ability to dig up wells and repair wells, even in hostile environments among the Philistines, teaches us about his resilience and perseverance. We read that he made peace by signing treaties with the lands and people he lived amongst. He also moved from one place to another once there were too many conflicts over wells. 16th century, another Isaac, Rabbi Isaac Luria, who is a 16th century Jewish mystic, reminds us that in our broken world, our responsibility, our purpose really is to collect all the sparks of light that are scattered throughout the world so that we can make creation a whole. His teaching is most known to us as the beginning of our Jewish value of tikkun olam, repairing the world. But Isaac, our Isaac in the Bible, our ancestor, we already know, we see that he already lived the value of repairing what was broken. Isaac went back to the source of life itself, water. He repaired and dug wells that could be used, wells that people who were passing by could use. He dug them for himself and even for those he disagreed with. Isaac's contribution to our history might not be as loud as the rest of the patriarchs, or even as brave as Rebekah, but Isaac found different ways of connecting with God. As we continue right now with the spirit of gratitude, may we also think of those in our lives and our own lives that we are grateful for their own lives and what they have taught us. Those who have taught us about love, about resilience, and even the beauty of silence. through their lives and their authenticity. May we work for peace. May we find different ways to connect with God. And may we open those wells of life. And may we repair what is broken. Shabbat Shalom.